everybody is doing amazing today. So, I'm not really sure what I'm going to title this video just yet, but over the last couple days, I've kind of come across some things and talked to some people and just, took some time to reflect on certain things. And I just wanted to make a video talking about, I guess it's going to be like a mixture of things. One of them is going to be using other people's success stories as kind of like a guideline for yourself about, how long is my manifestation going to take? Am I doing it right? Am I doing it wrong? And then also kind of the notion of, well, if you're not manifesting what you want, you're not being persistent enough, you're not doing it right, or you're not, doing it often enough. Or maybe even, I've seen a lot of people recently also talk about the fact that if people don't manifest certain things, like it just means that it doesn't work or that they're frauds or whatever. So there's a couple of things that I think are really, really important to kind of talk about, because I haven't really seen anybody talk about it necessarily. So yeah, also, if you're new here, hi, I do manifestation content. I do have a degree in psychology and in science, so I have a little bit of background when it comes to that. So if you like this kind of content, please make sure you like, subscribe, do all the, fun stuff. I also do a lot of content over on TikTok. So yeah, but also if you have any questions or any, video suggestions, I do have a list of things that I want to be filming over the next couple of days and weeks, which I have been a little bit behind just because, winter's coming. I've been preparing my house. It's taking a lot longer than I thought, but that is okay. But I will try to, stay on top of it a little bit more if possible. I also got all of my animals fixed at the same time, which probably wasn't the best idea I've ever had, but we are slowly getting to the end of everybody being fully healed. So hopefully I will have a little bit more time. But yeah, if you like this kind of content, please make sure you like, subscribe, and let's get into the video. I think the first thing is success stories. And I personally love success stories. I think they're very motivating. I think they can really encourage you and kind of remind you that, things are working in your favor and you are in control. But there are times where I feel that they can also be really discouraging and really difficult to kind of internalize in a way where you're like, okay, but everybody else is doing it and I'm doing it too, so why am I not getting results? I do believe that just because of the way your self-concept is set up, everybody's on a different journey. So if you don't have a good subconscious belief around, let's say you can manifest in 2 to 3 days or whatever, someone who has that in them might have a lot easier time manifesting that. You could also read a success story of somebody who, let's say, they're a terrible manifestor when it comes to money, right? But they're an incredible manifestor when it comes to relationships. So if they are telling you a success story about how they thought about something once and then their SP came in, you might think, well, okay, but why does that work for them and not is there something wrong with me? But it's not about there being something wrong with you. It's just they had a good self-concept maybe from the way they were raised already, or maybe they did the work and they just didn't, disclose that. And I'm not even saying that from necessarily a negative standpoint, or they're trying to hide this from you. We necessarily don't think about, oh, is this self-concept, what we have instilled in us right now? No, we just do things and see results as we go. And I even had this discussion with someone the other day who kind of had this little bit of lack of faith in their abilities. And no matter how many times I, for example, then manifest proof of their abilities, they're still working through that to get to the other side. So even though we have months and months of proof, for example, that things are working out in their favor and working based on their skill, that doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to instill confidence in them, in their abilities, because they need to work on that self-concept wise to understand, yes, I am capable of that. I know what I'm doing and, I am in control. So that can take a long period of time. I, for example, talked about the fact that I've manifested anxiety away. And over the last couple of weeks, my anxiety actually came back, and it came back worse than it's ever been. So then I had to, really look at, is this the same kind of anxiety? Is this a different kind of anxiety? And I realized it was a little bit of both. So it was easy for me to hook into what I had already done work-wise, and that eliminated that part of the anxiety really quickly. But there was some leftover anxiety from other stuff I hadn't addressed, so I needed to go into that and then do that as well. So it is a continuous process that you have to work through, and just because somebody else is on a different path than you doesn't make them more right, doesn't make them more successful. And again, it's not even about, are you further ahead in life? Are they further ahead in life? That has nothing to do with it. Remember, there's a million timelines. There is a version of you that exists that's already ahead of everybody else. And if this is something that you really, really deeply care about and you have to be ahead of everybody else, then manifest that version of yourself. There's nothing and nobody stopping you. But I do think that being kind to yourself and giving yourself grace that you are working with what you have right now and you're doing everything in your power as much as your mental health allows you, one step at a time, is really, really important to remember. Like, remind yourself of that again, success stories, they can change. And sometimes you hear success stories of somebody who manifested something really great, but then you don't see the flip side of it, where maybe they're starting to fall into old concepts again or old assumptions again, and then they're regressing. So, and I see this in a lot of people who are obsessively watching tarot. They will, do all the work, get a good tarot reading, but then maybe at the end of it, the tarot reader says something, which there is like this one common theme, and I'm going to address this in another video. There's one common theme they continuously bring up, and it really, really annoys me because it's so limiting and it's so negative and harmful. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh, but I worked on that, but wait a minute, does that mean that I am regressing now? You're not necessarily regressing, it's just they're reflecting back those fears to you. And obviously, because you had those fears and so longer than the work you've already done, it's almost like being re-triggered by that, right? So you have to then start again and get back on it. And sometimes that can be hard. And so I just want you to understand that, not every success story is a full success story. You shouldn't measure yourself on that. And technically, looking for success stories is also kind of a way of like checking the 3D. It's not really the best mental diet necessarily, only because if you're already in a state where you are working really hard to, do all of that and not question yourself, looking for somebody else's success instead of resting in the knowing that this is your success is a way of you trying to confirm from like outside of you that this is real, this is working, and you're going to get what you want, versus realizing, okay, the power actually lies within me. Like, you would actually be better off praying to your higher power at that point and looking for confirmation there, if you will, than going that route, trying to put your faith in other human beings that realistically, if you understand how the law works, don't have free will anyway, if that makes sense. So the next thing I want to discuss is not, manifesting things that people think you should manifest, or that just because someone doesn't have a certain something that they're a failure. Now, obviously, this does not apply across the board. There's a couple people that I'm specifically thinking of that I know for a fact are, even coaching that shouldn't be coaching. But when it comes to certain things that society has deemed valuable or worthy, just because someone isn't manifesting, that doesn't mean that they don't know how to manifest or that they're a failure. Because remember, society is built to make you crave something you don't have. It's always the bigger house, the better SP, more money, more beauty, more youth. Like, it's designed to make you suffer. Essentially, it's not even about like designed to make you want to achieve more and be ambitious. You can be ambitious even in your everyday life. There's things that you can do that are really, really small that can bring you so much joy. And this is like a really dumb example, but I, got a new lawnmower this year. And every time I mow my lawn, even if I have someone who asks to help me, like, I'm like, no, I'm going to do it myself. Because every time I do it, I get so much dopamine from it and so much happiness. Just looking at it, I'm just so proud of myself. And, then sometimes I set myself a goal. Maybe I should, now do a little bit more of this side of the lawn. And so I got, like garden shears and I use them. It's just these tiny little things that really make me feel accomplished every time I do them, that do not require me to manifest a mega mansion or millions and millions of dollars or whatever else like the community claims is pillar for success, I guess. And this is one of the things where I feel if someone is really pushing that and saying that's just a sign that they don't understand the basic of what the law is supposed to give us. The law is supposed to give us peace. The law is supposed to give us power, and it's supposed to give us autonomy that society kind of took away from us. And we're supposed to live in, this simple knowing that we can have everything we want, which means that we don't need to have everything. Because if you're going out here like, I want $1 million, I want 1 million followers, I want this, that, and the other, you're still looking for outside things that essentially, quote unquote, mean nothing to fulfill this hole inside of you that you think is going to make you happy because society told you that it will make you happy, which is just a sign that you're, again, giving your power away to somebody else's opinion or somebody else's status quo that they literally pulled out of their butt, like pulled out of nowhere. I'll give you an example because I literally just had this conversation with somebody. My house, most people would think like, oh, this is small or this is simple or whatever. I bought this house 3-ish years ago or so, and it's worth now double what it was when I paid for it. Every person who comes to visit me, if they see, the land and the house, they're like, oh my God, are you selling it? Like, I love it. I want it. Everybody loves this house. Why would I especially if I'm, for example, someone who's working through health issues right now and who's manifesting feeling better, and I get dopamine from cleaning and decluttering and organizing, but that doesn't mean that I want to spend a week at a time having to do that every time. Why would I, in my state, want something else when I have a really, really nice home? I have a roof over my head that is paid off. I don't have any mortgage or nothing. It has good value right now. Why would I want something else, right? Because society tells me that it's trashy to live how I live because I don't have 50 million bathrooms. This is the kind of mindset that I feel a lot of people who are trying to just get into it, or especially coming out of the law of attraction. I noticed that the law of attraction really, really reminds me of these prosperity preachers or teachers, like, was it Joel Osteen's probably the worst one of them, that are basically saying oh, you can have what I have, you just have to buy my books and do this, that, and the other. So you're basically making them more rich while they're telling you that you can be just as rich as them, which you technically could, and you didn't even need their help. But what good is it gonna do? A lot of these people are still miserable. A lot of these people are still hustling because they want more and more money, because money doesn't make you happy. They're greedy because they're trying to fulfill something that the law of assumption should already fulfill. If I know that I can have whatever I want and there is nothing that is being denied to me and all of my needs are met, why would I ever want more? Why would I ever get into this place where I have to be greedy, right? That's something you have to think about. And I think society as a whole has really, really fostered this environment to the point where I saw that there's this trend going around on TikTok now of the underconsumption core, and there was a news clip that I saw where they're talking about, oh, is underconsumption core, which is ridiculous. It's not a core. People are just trying to get by, ruining the economy. The economy was already ruined before. This is why people are saving now. And, they're literally trying to make people feel bad, because the comment section is full of people saying oh, I guess I've been under consumption core my whole life because I've been poor. Again, creating that divide to make people feel bad for trying to be frugal or, living with what they have. So I feel like learning how to manifest is about learning how to meet your basic needs and knowing that you can have anything you want that you need in that moment in time, but that anything outside of that is just you feeding the beast that somebody else, who again is greedy and empty, and I will stand by that, is telling you need to want, even though you doing that is only benefiting them. I don't know. I just think this is food for thought, I guess, but I've just thought about this a lot recently with everything going on in the world. And, there's so many people who are literally so upset at, especially TikTok is the pits of hell for that, I think. Because I recently started reorganizing my kitchen and buying things that are just more health conscious, just because that's what I wanted. But I'm not over, organizing things. I'm not going out of my way to buy crazy stuff. And I realized it's not even that expensive to, for example, buy glassware now. But you have this overconsumption core of people being oh, we're so fancy, this, that, and the other. But they're still buying things that are essentially unhealthy for you. It's just spending money to spend money to make you feel bad and to feel like you're out of control because you're looking at somebody and you're well, what did they do? Because the first question I always see when I see videos like this is, well, what do you do for a living? As in you're doing something that I'm not doing, that I maybe can't do, but I want this so badly, so maybe I need to emulate you so I can make the same amount of money, so I can have the same stuff, which again will not make you happy, and it's giving your power away to somebody else, because who knows how they made their money? Who cares how they made their money? You want something for you, you go and manifest that money. You go and manifest that job and that raise and whatever it is that you want. And I am gonna make a success story video, which yes, of course, I just talked about that, but if you are in need of motivation when it comes to things like this, I figured I'm just gonna make a video that kind of combines all kinds of topics. So health, SP, money, raise at work, third party, stuff like that. So there's a bunch of things that I want to cover in that video, just to kind of maybe for you to have an anchor point to go back to look at something that is not just something you maybe want to strive for, but that's also achievable for you. So if you are someone who is easily triggered by that, I would really suggest cutting down your time on social media in general, or even if you have someone in your personal life who you feel is doing so much better than you, and maybe even rubbing it in your face, or even if they're not, if they make you feel bad to the point where you feel like you're so helpless, maybe cut some time out, cut spending time with them out a little bit, and really refocus and recenter yourself and ask yourself, okay, what is it that I actually really want? Why am I so upset at what they have versus what I don't have? Because do I have actually everything that I quote unquote need? Let's start with that. And everything else outside of that, why would I want that? Is it maybe because I'm unhappy? Is it because I'm slaving away at a job that I don't like? Is it because I don't take enough time to do self-care, even if it's just 5 minutes a day, to do something to replenish my soul in a way that makes me feel good? But I see other people having this stuff, and we're trained to believe that the more aesthetic your life looks, the happier things are. And I can tell you, like, I had a family member who was actually like the epitome of Nara Smith. And they were so miserable. Like, their whole life was a lie and a sham. Their relationship was a total sham. Like, people wouldn't have believed the kind of like things that were going on back like in their family, to the point where one of them even, you know, got severe depression. So, and needed severe treatment for that. So it's not always what it looks to be, but we were trained and designed to believe that. And I think this is a great time for you to maybe take a step back and be like, okay, just remind yourself, I am in control. So what is it that I'm actually really looking for? And why am I so upset with something somebody has? What is it that I'm trying to fill in my own life? And always remind yourself, there are no limits to what you can and cannot have. And if you want to overconsume, if that actually does make you happy, then again, that's also your prerogative. If this is something you really want to like achieve, and this is something you really desire, then you can also go for that. But please don't do it under the guise of thinking that this will actually make you happy or solve your problems, or, you know, make you feel like you're more in control. Because if you don't understand right now that you are already in control, even getting that will not fix that. You will chase the carrot for the rest of your life. I promise you. As someone who used to very much overconsume, who comes from, you know, a household that was like overconsumption core, I guess is what they would consider it. I mean, literally to the point where things were just shoved into cabinets because we had so much stuff, and there was no point to it. I'm now decluttering because I'm realizing I would rather spend my time doing something that feeds me internally versus externally, if that makes sense. So, and I guess getting to my last point, you know, if you're not manifesting something, you're either doing it wrong or you're not consistent enough. Like, let me tell you something. And this is just my personal opinion and my assumptions, so don't come for me. If any person or any coach or anybody tells you that they are consistently manifesting every single day, that they have a set routine, that they like stick to it like nobody's business, my first instinct is to not believe them. If they do that, good for them. But let me tell you that they are the absolute exception to the rule, not the rule itself. So, and it doesn't matter whether you're actually in a place to do it or not. Like, I mean, if you're not new here, you know I have ADHD and autism. So to me, it's hard to stick to a routine. For me, it's hard to make a routine. But just because I don't obsessively manifest every single day doesn't mean I'm not getting my stuff. Some things take longer, sure, but I also know that sometimes there might be a week where, guess what? I don't want to affirm. I don't want to do my technique. Even if I'm then trying to do something else, maybe I'll journal, or maybe I'll, you know, make a tape or something. I don't care. Sometimes, even if it takes no single effort whatsoever to just press play, I don't want to do it sometimes, so I don't. If then the 3D reality reflects something back to me that I don't like, or that's, you know, an old belief, anything along those lines, I used to then react and get really upset, which obviously sets you back quite a bit. Nowadays, I started to realize that, yeah, that's not how it works though. So if something happens outside of me that I realize that I don't want, I just acknowledge it. I realize that it's because I was lacking, you know, the motivation or whatever it is to do my technique. And so whenever I do feel good, say, hi, Bella. Hi. Pretty girl. We manifested her too, didn't we? Mrs. Biscuit Queen. When I then see something that I don't like, I acknowledge it and I make either a mental note or write it down, and I'm like, okay, so this is my 3D reality. It's literally playing out an old subconscious belief that I haven't addressed yet. That's fine. I don't need to be upset though, because everything can be fixed, everything can be reversed, and all I need to do is when I get back on track, if I get back on track, I will get back on track. And that is totally okay. There is nothing wrong with taking a time out or taking a breather, focusing on something else completely. And this is not to say that, you know, oh, if you let it go, then it will manifest. I don't really believe in that. I've had situations like that, but it's more to me, it's more a case of like, let's say I've affirmed for something for 2 days and then I got into a slump and I forgot about it for a week and a half and then it manifested. I'd be like, okay, that's cool. I actually affirmed for that, like, let's say a week ago or so. But I also know if I would have affirmed for it for 3 or 4 days straight, I would have gotten it right away. I would have gotten movement immediately. So to me, it doesn't matter whether it's coming a week from now or tomorrow, like unless it's like an emergency. But it doesn't matter whether you're, taking some time off or not. If you are doing the work, if you are doing the work, whether it's consistently or not, things might still manifest for you, even if you're not affirming every single day, is basically what I'm trying to say. But sometimes, yes, there are beliefs that are a little bit more like deeper instilled in you and you have to affirm more. Sure. But the thing is this, with the brain, if you started affirming for something and you started rewiring your brain, if you then stop and start again, it's not like you're starting from scratch. You're actually starting from the point that you last stopped. And I'll give you an example. So I think my biggest example would probably be my social media following. Cold orange juice just hits the spot. So, and you see this very clearly on TikTok, for example. So I was affirming for quite some time that, I had this amount of followers and this amount of views and blah, 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 whatever. And it came to me so quickly. But then I had a bunch of people come up on my For You page consistently that talked about, oh, algorithm this, oh, slump this, or 200 views this. And I know that my brain still has a part of it in it that is very much like, oh, the algorithm is affecting me. So I'm giving my power away in that instance, right? And you can always see that with my views dropping or my followers dropping a little bit. I can, however, because I retrained my brain to a certain extent already, it's not a full assumption where I don't have to affirm anymore. But if I were to affirm, let's say for 5 minutes, or even just make a decision, be like, no, this doesn't apply to me. I'm going to get my followers back and I'm going to get more. You will always see my followers going up, which is why, my algorithm looks kind of funky sometimes. But it's not something that I feel so passionate about right now that I want to sit down and really rewire my brain to the point where it's an automatic process. I don't care enough to do that. I care enough when I see it and it bothers me. So I'm like, okay, I'm going to do a little bit of work. But it's not something that I want to sit around for 3 weeks and affirm for all day, every day, or just even, take the time, even on days that I don't feel like it, because I might want to manifest something else if I have the energy, or I might not want to manifest anything at all except for what my, automatic programming is already doing. And if I say not manifesting, I mean conscious manifesting. We're all manifesting 24/7 anyway. If you are seeing some things that are just up and down in your own life and you feel like, oh, I didn't do this enough, and you beat yourself up about it, please don't. It is so unnatural to really spend all day, every day doing that consistently, because for most people, even if you are someone who has a really good, steady routine, life has been so crazy for everybody lately. It's just unnatural to assume that you have the mental capacity for it all the time. And if you don't, it's okay. And if you are someone, let's say, for example, who wants to combine tasks and you want to affirm every day, honey, stop jumping. If you want to affirm, come here. If you want to affirm every day for while you're, for example, brushing your teeth, that's 3 minutes in the morning, 3 minutes in the evening, right? That's 6 minutes. That's still better than nothing. So you might even be able to get away with just that and manifest overnight or manifest within a couple days, depending on where your belief is at. Or maybe it'll take you a little bit longer because you're not doing the work to, crazily affirm. Because I was doing, I wrote down an affirmation for somebody a couple days ago and I kind of calculated how long it would take for them to repeat it 10,000 times. Because if you in terms of how long it takes to start rewiring your brain, it would take 3 consistent hours to do that. And if your affirmation is literally, I think only a minute, not a minute, sorry, a second long or a second and a half or something, that's a long time. That's a bit, a lot of time to have to affirm, which again doesn't mean that you can't get movement before. You absolutely can. And that's what most people see when they are quote unquote consistent. I don't know how to say this. I mean, maybe this is just me because I feel like there's a lot of things that are just not that vitally important that I have to spend my entire day manifesting. Even if it were to come, let's say, to an SP or something, I know a lot of people are overly consumed with manifesting their SP and are trying to do this so excessively that they're almost not paying attention to anything else anymore, because it's almost like these intrusive thoughts isn't the right word, but they're just, possessive, obsessive thoughts about it. But if that is the case, then you need to work on your anxiety and you need to work on, that part of you, and you need to do self-concept work and all of those things, which I can make a separate video about how to deal with that and how to maybe get out of that spot, because you shouldn't even be in that place to be so obsessive about something in that capacity when you are in control and you can have whatever you want whenever you want. It doesn't matter. So if you are so consumed by something like that, and you feel so guilty or bad about yourself if you're not manifesting all day, every day, to the point where it's detrimental to your mental health, I think this is where it's almost like a form of toxic positivity. It kind of reminds me of that a little bit, of the law of attraction community. And this is where you can literally turn manifestation into a toxic thing for your mental health and your everyday life. It's okay to take breaks. It's okay to, readjust what you want. It's also okay to, if you started manifesting something and you realize that that's not what you want to, then, pivot and shift. And, I've seen comments before where people were like, oh, if a coach doesn't have their SP, then they don't know how to manifest. I manifested marriage with my SP at the time. I also manifested divorce with my SP at the time. Does that make me a failure? No, I'm the one that left. I'm the one that wanted the divorce. I decided that because it's not even I changed my mind. I just don't feel this way about this person anymore, and that's okay. That doesn't make me a failure. I still did that in both ways, but it was my choice. And if you were there at the time, this person relentlessly would not give up, and they did not want this divorce whatsoever. Does that make me someone who doesn't know how to manifest marriage with an SP? That doesn't even make any sense. You don't always see, everybody's life outside of that. You don't always see what they're manifesting. I'm not, on here sharing my success stories every single day of all the things that I'm manifesting. Some things are just my private life, and I like to keep them my private life. So just because you're, not always seeing everything in somebody else's life doesn't mean that they're doing better than you or worse than you or whatever the case may be. And like I said, it is totally okay to take a step back and take a break and really look after yourself and really just, assess what your mental health needs versus what everybody else has going on. Because if you, and I don't really like to use this phrase, even though I know and I understand where it comes from, if you are God of your reality, right? Do you honestly think that God is checking up to see what other people are doing? Do you think that God is upset just because he's not doing work every day, right? Literally, there's a day of rest for a reason. Do you think that God is, comparing himself all the time to what other people are achieving and he's not doing that? That doesn't even make any sense. If you really subscribe to that belief that this is how it works, then you do have to embody that mind, body, and soul. And I'm still firmly of the belief, and I've pushed this for a long time, that if you are actually manifesting what you want, you would not be in this perpetual state of happiness or excitement or, this constant gratitude. We are designed to be indifferent to things that we have in our reality because it protects our brain from sensory overload and overstimulation and, taking in too much information so we can actually still function. So this notion that, all of this excitement that oftentimes comes with a lot of success stories, even if they are success stories that last, I can guarantee you, if you ask them 3 months from now, they would tell you that things have just settled in and they're just living everyday life because that is what is most natural to us. And if you think about a time where you actually maybe, let's say with SP, had a successful relationship with them, more times than not, unless you were in a state of anxiety, things were just ticking along and you were living your life and you weren't worried about what they were doing or what everybody else is doing. You were just going about your everyday tasks. You weren't worried about, am I doing the dishes today, but do I feel like I want to affirm? No. You would just do the damn dishes and maybe think about what you had for dinner or what you want to make for dinner. So going back to basics a little bit and realizing that taking time out of your day to not manifest consciously, but still watch your thoughts. If you are someone who spirals, then I would say at least have an affirmation or something that you can revert back to. It's almost like an emergency thing. But outside of that, living life without this constant need to control every single thing of your manifestation, I personally believe might actually result in you getting it a lot quicker than you maybe assumed it would come in, because it's just your most natural state of being. So, and I've used this analogy for so long. I mean, your brain's like the algorithm, right? So what you consume of or what you focus on, you get more of. So you just stop engaging with things that you don't want. So if you're, someone who is trying to understanding that this is how it works, the more you're actually settling into your everyday life, the more you are getting yourself into the state of, I have what I want and I'm now living everyday life. I'm married to my SP for 10 years. We never had to worry about a bill. I'm living in my dream home. You wouldn't be obsessively thinking about, oh, my dream home, this, my dream home, that. You would be like, oh my God, I have to clean this place again. Like, ugh, you know what I mean? So focusing on that, even if it's just 50% of the day, is, in my opinion, gonna help you get there a lot faster, but it's also really protecting your everyday life, your mental health. You're not neglecting, your responsibilities. You're not neglecting things that are important for you to just participate in everyday life. I see people really losing their minds over this, and there's really no reason for that. So yeah, anyway, I'm starting to ramble now, but I really hope that this video helped you. I hope this answered some questions. I hope this maybe soothed you a little bit. Like I said, there are some topics that I want to film about, but if you have any suggestions or questions, please absolutely let me know. And otherwise, I hope you have a wonderful rest of your week, and I will see you very soon, hopefully.